We acknowledge that Tri-Cities Community Television operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below.
I'm going to welcome our next speaker today, Dan Wurtele. The first thing you got to know about Dan is he's a good salesman. He ranks in the top 1% of all realtors in the GBRD in 2024 and the top 10% since 2019. In addition to his prowess as a realtor, Dan has created the highly acclaimed Vancouver Life Real Estate podcast with his partner Ryan Dash, and he has cultivated a dedicated and expanding community of real estate enthusiasts with that. That's the Vancouver Life Real Estate podcast. Tonight, Dan will be speaking about how the recent Cowichan and Musqueam decisions have impacted housing and insights on how to protect yourself both as a homeowner and a potential buyer. Let's welcome Dan.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Ben, of course, for you and your team for putting on this event. Most importantly, the volunteers. I think they deserve another round for putting this on. Thank you so much. It's been a great event to further educate ourselves. I'm already learning a bunch tonight and appreciate all the talks. And it's an ever-evolving situation that we're in. And so I really appreciate everyone who's been able to speak tonight to help us learn more. So yeah, I was invited here tonight to kind of share some perspectives from the real estate side of the issue. And so, as mentioned, yes, part of a 1% team here, but why that matters is, of course, we do a lot of volume, which means we have a lot of conversations with homeowners, with buyers, with sellers. And a lot of my conversations recently are, of course, about how do these recent land claims and agreements affect my property. Do you mind changing the slide? Thank you. So yeah, as mentioned, I do run a predominant YouTube show, a channel here, and it's all about real estate in the Lower Mainland. And as these conversations about the Aboriginal claims and laws have come into effect, we wanted to learn more. So we've been interviewing people like Aboriginal law specialist lawyers, like Dallas Brody, MLA, who's very outspoken about repealing UNDRIP, among many other things. So yeah, if you're curious about following that, please do. Lots more shows regarding the land claims to come. Take a slide, please. So yeah, understandably, land claims have become front and center in the media recently, and they've created reasons for events like this tonight. And it seems like there is an immense amount of confusion out there about how it actually affects our private property rights. I mean, as recently as just this last Thursday, Pierre Poilievre had called for a plan from the Fed to take action against protecting private property rights, as it seems almost no one can fully provide absolute clarity onto the stance of either side of the story. For reference, recent court decisions say First Nations can have Aboriginal title over their private land. This is not consistent with Canadian law. Aboriginal title is an Aboriginal right protected by the Constitution, the exclusive right to land over and above the government, such that Crown retains no beneficial interest. Sounds pretty monumental to me. To quote the judge in the recent decision, it is no longer Crown land. You can get an idea of the can of worms that opens up. Now, interestingly, in talking with a number of lawyers and through some of these interviews, there's still room for interpretation, it seems like. And some lawyers will disagree with other lawyers, at least as far as the full clarity goes. And so that's why, again, I really appreciate events like this, so we can further understand it, because there's a lot to, I guess, clarify before we truly understand the outcomes here. Now, as was mentioned earlier, I think by Paul, something like 95% of BC already has some form of claim of Aboriginal title or treaty over it, and yes, that does include Coquitlam. Can you change the slide, please? So, yes, the Coquitlam area is currently covered by a treaty with the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, to the best of my understanding. Now, it doesn't mean that there's a claim over the land, per se, but we can kind of expand on that, because the Coquitlam First Nation, now they filed an Aboriginal title claim in 2016 for approximately 4.5 square kilometers of land along the Coquitlam River. Now, that claim targets private land, such as Riverview Lands and Colony Farm, rather than private property. So that litigation is currently in abeyance while there is a provincially led process taking place. But at the end of the day, this is just a massive legal question mark over all of our land. Slide, please. So let's expand a bit on this with what's recently happened in Richmond, right? The Richmond claim came to be in the public eye in August of just last year, where the BC Supreme Court ruled that the Cowichan tribes hold Aboriginal title over that 800 acres of land there. Now, the ruling also basically decreed that the Aboriginal title can coexist with fee simple title. And I'm sure the lawyer in the room will correct me if I'm wrong here, but that was the understanding. The problem there largely is that Aboriginal title holds prior and senior right, ultimately meaning it's superior. So what has been the outcome regarding real estate since this has come to be? And of course, is it an insight into what could happen in other regions within our province that receive a similar claim? Next slide, please. So yeah, appraisers, land values is of course one of the first questions that comes to mind, and appraisers have been quoted as saying that property values within that land claim area could be reduced by as much as 30 to 40%. And that's basically overnight that nobody saw coming, none of those landowners had a say in. Since then, a number of lenders, or Canadian banks, have suggested that properties within that land claim area cannot be refinanced or new mortgages applied to them if somebody wanted to purchase. Next slide. In response to that, David Eby, who's clearly a crowd favorite tonight, came out to say that the government would offer loan guarantees to people that found themselves kind of in that position where maybe they couldn't refinance their home. That's a band-aid solution at best. There's only so much money to go around, and I don't know if an even deeper deficit is what we need right now. And most importantly, this doesn't help anybody who wants to sell their home in that area. In fact, since August of 2025, 0 properties in that claim area have sold because they can't, right? People are effectively trapped within their homes there. Now, yes, the decision is in the process of being appealed. But in one of the interviews that we did there on the YouTube channel with Anita Buscariel, who is an Aboriginal law lawyer, we asked her outright, so what is the process? What's the time frame that people can expect for this appeal the outcome of the appeal rather, to be known, so that landowners, have some clarity and can potentially sell their property? And she said, well, it's going to go through the BC Supreme Court. It will almost certainly get elevated to the Supreme Court of Canada. And between those two courts, the entire process will take in and around 10 years. Imagine, should another decision similar to the Richmond Cowichan claim, it just essentially came out of nowhere as far as we were concerned. Let's say they came to Coquitlam. Next week, there's a claim for Coquitlam. And that land, your home, could be illiquid for 10 years. Something to consider. So, at a bare minimum, I think the amount of uncertainty that these land claims make is having a direct impact, obviously, on home purchase decisions. Next slide. So this is home sales volumes in the Greater Vancouver area, and yes, sure, they've been dropping for almost 4 years now, and yes, they started dropping before the Cowichan or the Musqueam agreements came to be in the public eye. So there's never one singular economic factor that's going to drive home sales up or down. It's a compounding effect, right, of a multitude of these economic factors that drives housing. But now we're layering in kind of the recent land claims, and that additional level of uncertainty is absolutely affecting consumer confidence. Next slide. You see, people do not make a $1 million home decision when their confidence in the future is low, or if the fact that, of course, their private property rights may be at risk. So this is obviously and understandably driving confidence lower. I'll share that last year, 2025, when it comes to home sales in our Lower Mainland, they were actually at a 25-year low. And in Q1 so far of 2026, we're trending 14% lower than that. So confidence is almost rock bottom here, right? We're at a 3-decade low in home sales. And it's not just residential real estate that's being affected. If you can change the next slide, please. commercial investment, foreign investment, it's all affecting our province as well. This was a story in regards to an Ontario company that had put down a massive deposit to buy a luxury hotel in Richmond, outside of the land claim area. It was just in the city of Richmond, so it was not directly affected, but again, it fell under the Richmond umbrella, scared these investors out. They pulled the deal worth tens of millions of dollars because of that quote-unquote uncertainty, right, caused by the landmark Cowichan ruling. We need foreign investment to help grow, to create jobs, etc. And we are going to continue, in my opinion, to see major commercial real estate projects and infrastructure projects falter if clarity cannot be provided regarding land rights. So next slide, please. Part of these agreements that are coming to light makes a note of what's called a duty to consult, right? And so I think what might happen going forward here is more projects may require Indigenous consultation or partnership, which ultimately could slow timelines, right? Have everybody here gone and got a building permit? Probably weren't too happy with how long that took, right? Imagine adding another layer of consultation to that. And what happens with time? It gets costly, right? Another layer of bureaucratic red tape, and that's costs. To play the other side of that coin, though, it could ultimately unlock new development opportunities through partnership as well. But either way, it's going to translate into future supply impacts, future pricing impacts, and future redevelopment potential. When we talk about things like infrastructure, right? Transit, pipelines, for example, these are major infrastructures that are already being impacted today. Projects across BC are increasingly requiring Indigenous agreements. And if you kind of expand on that, that can really shape where growth happens and which neighborhoods may benefit, right? Some groups may agree here, some may want density over here, or the opposite. Next slide. So when it comes to kind of market implications, what's going to happen here? In the short term, I think there's a very minimal direct impact on resale values in Coquitlam. When we're talking about land claims, right? Like I said, multiple factors push real estate, but the claims alone are going to have a minimal direct impact in the short term. Most buyers today, they're not necessarily pricing in the potential of what may be. In the medium term, though, there could be those slower development pipelines that I discussed. That's a very real outcome. Again, which is going to result in those higher construction costs, which again pushes through to who? The end user, right? The home buyer. And then in the long term, increased collaboration with Indigenous groups, which may be an outcome. It could create new types of developments, but also change land valuation dynamics and the investment therein. So what do you guys do as homeowners? Next slide. Just like this, stay informed, right? Learn more about it. Don't be reactive. Come to town halls, watch policy updates, check the local Coquitlam website, the city website. Stay on top of local development patterns. If you own land with redevelopment potential today, it could become more valuable, but it could also become more complex at the same time. But I think understanding any changes early puts you ahead of about 90% of most homeowners. Next slide. So a big conversation, or a lot of conversations I'm having recently with homeowners is about title insurance. Because you can get potential title insurance to protect you from land claims. So to the best of my knowledge, there's two groups that do offer this in Canada, in BC, and FTC is one of them. And in preparation for this talk, I called an underwriter there yesterday to learn about what they cover and sort of the costs involved and whatnot. And as you can imagine, for them, it's a very evolving situation as well. And essentially, it comes down to, of course, the area that you are in, but also the band that makes the claim. Some bands they can insure against, and some they cannot. If you want to make it more complicated, there you go. So, yes, I guess the short answer there is if you own a home and you're looking to get covered, just make the call. Call FTC. I have no affiliation with them, but they're one of the two insurers in Canada that you can discuss insuring against land claims. Next slide. I mean, if you are considering selling today, you'll want to know, is your property under a current land claim area? Most likely not, but there are conversations that are ongoing. Will future development here become more complicated, again, where you're located? And understanding, like from that earlier map, which treaty exists on the land, on the home that you're looking to sell, and is there potential future claims involved? Buyers today, same thing, but just the opposite. Understand which neighborhood you're buying in and which treaties might exist on that, in the areas, that you're targeting. Explore that title insurance in advance, right? This is something you're very serious about pursuing. Understand which areas that you should be buying in or maybe avoiding because they're uninsurable. And that's, of course, on top of all the existing diligence that we do. And I think I'll just end with sort of 3 questions in the answers to those, and you can change the slides. These are the big ones, or the most common today. It's, can my home be taken? Short answer is no. There's no practical precedent in BC today where it can just be taken. Yes, it's an evolving situation, but today I think the answer is safely no. Should you be worried? Again, no, but you should be informed, and we're all doing a good job of this tonight, I think, learning about it. And will it impact your home prices? And nothing, indirectly, but over time, right? This isn't something that happens instantly, but kind of like UNDRIP and DRIPA and everything else that's following it, it seems to be coming chip by chip a little bit more at a time. So in summary, last slide, land claims aren't about what happens to your home tomorrow, they're about who shapes the future of the land your home sits on. And last slide, I think is, thank you. Appreciate it.